Okay, everybody, thank you so much for watching Angelo Christian Financial. Today we have a very special guest on the show. We have Mr. Seanpan with Everything REI, and we're going to actually be talking about a great topic today. This is for real estate investors that want to get into the industry, learn the tricks of the trade, how to master real estate flipping and investing. And Sean, you're going to educate the audience today, walk us through this, explain how do you become a successful investor with real estate. So Sean, thank you so much for coming on the show.
Angelo, thank you so much for having me on. It's a pleasure to be here.
Yeah, absolutely. So, I think that one of the things that caught our attention, that we're both in real estate, we do property investing and flipping, and I cater to a lot of property investors and flippers, and it sounds like that's what the main theme of your group is too, is property investors, flippers, and then people that are new in the business. And so I wanted to first off get a little bit of background about, how did you get started? Can you kind of tell us about who you are, where you came from with real estate?
Yeah, so I'm based here in the Bay Area in California.
Okay.
I grew up in Northern California, went to school down in Southern California, and actually studied to be an engineer. I actually worked as an engineer for Boeing and Northrop Grumman. These are large defense contractors, so we were working on satellites. And it was fun. We were doing some good work. But after a while, I kind of saw what the future would be. I looked at my coworkers, I looked at my management, and I saw that wasn't the future that I wanted. How can I create my own future? And so that's why I started pouring into different books. Obviously, the number one was Rich Dad, Poor Dad by Robert Kiyosaki. I started going on Bigger Pockets. I started going on different websites like Quora.com and just looking at different businesses that you could start. And of all the different businesses that I tried, real estate was the one that was the most consistent. And ultimately, that was the one that I decided was the one for me. Right. And that's how I got into it.
Gotcha. Okay, so key takeaway there that I don't know if you guys paid attention to the audience, and I'm a big advocate of that too. When you're young, try a lot of things, right? And see which one that you like the best, which one sticks, and then scale with that. So, okay, so now fast forward, you're in real estate, and what part of the spectrum of real estate, what exactly do you do, Sean?
Yeah, so in the beginning, I wasn't really sure what I was going to do. Real estate investing is a whole industry, so there's so many things to do. Ultimately, I found my niche in buying out-of-state rental properties over in Jacksonville, Florida. So I'm based here on the West Coast. All my rental properties are in the East Coast.
Okay. Now, why Jacksonville?
So when I was first going to all these different real estate meetup groups, they would have these wonderful lists of top 10 places to invest. And, there's so many cities, you have no idea. Out of all the cities that consistently showed up on these lists, Jacksonville was one of them. And all the other cities had something kind of off about them for me. They were in different climates. I'm from California. I don't really know anything about snow. And I figured that, Florida has a similar climate to California. And there are hurricanes, but it doesn't seem like it would be that bad. And ultimately, I like the price to rent ratios as well. So if you're in the Bay Area, you can buy a property. It'll cost you $1 or $1.2 million, and you're only going to get $3,000 or $4,000 a month from it. That's not enough to cash flow. You're going to be spending money every single month. Whereas in Jacksonville, you can get a house for about $100,000 and it'll rent out for $1,000 a month. So it's a lot of money.
Okay, right. So one of the things that you're talking about obviously is, and what sounds like your cap rate, a thing that you're concerned with, which is your ROI, how much are you spending on your home, the investment versus what your return is. And usually in the Bay Area or California, you're going to have a much lower cap rate, right, than you will in a property in Jacksonville. What is the average price of your real estate? Around $200,000 or what? How much?
Over in Jacksonville?
Yeah,
it would be about $100,000 or less than that.
Okay. Are these single family or multifamily?
So I have 2 single family properties and I have 1 multifamily.
Okay. Yeah. So, and that makes a lot of sense because, cap rate is what you're looking at, and location is critical as well. And the price point, if you think about it, you're always going to be able to keep renting those out because of the price point. It's not $1 million home, it's a $100,000 home, right? So if one tenant is done and their lease is up, you could probably easily rent that out again, especially if it's a prime location. Jacksonville is a great city. So right. I agree with that. So, okay, so now you have your own show, you do a podcast, and you really educate, first-time investors getting into the industry, teaching them how to be successful. What are some of the, if you could write a book and list the top 10 things, to be a successful real estate investor, what would you say that is now?
Yeah, it's funny you mentioned that. I actually wrote a short PDF of like the summary of all these different lessons that I learned from my guests on my show.
Okay.
And if any of your listeners want, they can get it from my website, everythingrei.com. But it basically comes down to this. Number one is your network is probably the most important part of the entire business. If you try to do everything alone, you're going to have a very difficult time. And ultimately, there's no way you can do this alone. Like if you live in the Bay Area, you need to have a property management team in the East Coast. You need to have some kind of deal source, whether that be wholesalers or agents, right? The contractors, you're not going to be doing the one. You're not the one who's going to be doing the work. And obviously you need the lending person, someone to finance your projects. So
Right.
network is number one. And the best way to do that is to join your local real estate meetup groups. So I host a meetup group down here in the Bay Area, and you can just find the meetup groups that you want by going to meetup.com. Look for meetup groups, start attending. Honestly, like your first few meetups are going to suck, especially if you're brand new, because people probably don't want to talk to you because they're like, well, this guy doesn't know what he's talking about. He's so new, but just keep showing up.
Yeah.
Over time, people will start to recognize your face, and maybe you can volunteer for a position. That's what I did. I volunteered for a position.
Yeah.
And a year later, after just doing that, I actually got a deal sent to me just because they kept seeing my face. So like consistency matters.
Yeah, there's a joke. One of my loan officers, he works for me. He started that. He tried to join these meetup groups, and he rented a Lamborghini to go to one of the meetup groups, and then he pretended that he was like this big time real estate entrepreneur, this mogul. And then this guy came up to him and said, "Hey, do you want to partner on a $40 million apartment complex? Can you put in $5 million?" And he left. He got so scared and nervous because he was trying to attract attention from like the successful people, and he didn't have the money, obviously. And so, but no, I agree with you that you definitely the network is your net worth, right? And you want to be joining these groups because that's where there's a book called Where Great Ideas Come From, and it comes from these clusters of masterminds getting together, talking, and then ideas start to exchange and flow. And then, one thing leads to another. I'm a huge advocate of spending the money as an investment to go to these groups. We do that here in Houston. We do meetups and mastermind sessions. And we've actually built something called Real Estate University, where we teach people how to invest and do fix and flips, how to do all different types of funding. So that's a huge thing. So what are the other ones, Sean?
Yeah. And going to that point, the cost to join these meetup groups it's not like that much. It's like maybe $15, $20 per session. And they're like once a month. So you can join many different meetup groups.
Oh yeah. No, the ROI is phenomenal. I agree.
Exactly. And so to go more into that point, the next step is to find someone that you really trust and then kind of get them to be your mentor. And I say this with quotes because you don't want to just approach somebody and ask them to be your mentor because honestly, that's going to freak them out. So you have to kind of do this in a smarter way. So,
right.
Bring them a deal or, befriend them. And then you don't ask for like official mentorship, but you just kind of ask them like, hey, I have this specific problem. You won't hear some of these advice that's like kind of in the gray area in a book or in a podcast. You'll hear it from a friend who has done this and has been in a similar situation. So that's probably the second point.
I agree. Okay, what else? That's number one. What's number two?
Number two, honestly, I think getting your deal flow right is probably another really important part because from my experience with real estate, I don't think money has ever been the issue. It's always been, where can we get better deals? So for example, if you don't have money and let's say you're trying to do $1 million flip here in the Bay Area, okay, it's very common, and you don't have $500,000 to do it. Well, if you can show to someone that there's a $500,000 spread on this deal, you're going to find the money. There's going to be no problem there. Like someone's going to have a hard money lending contact. Someone's going to be willing to put down the down payment because the deal is there.
All right. So now when you're talking about deal flow, are you talking about like how do you source your leads? Where do you get them from?
Right. Yeah. So whatever you do, you just need to do that, like to get those deals.
Well, okay. Let's talk about that because that's a huge thing. So how do you get your deals? Do you use off market? Do you have brokers? Do you have people out there feeding you information? Do you subscribe to a list? What do you do?
So if you're brand new and you're trying to do like a smaller project, like buying those out of state rentals, then honestly buying off the MLS isn't that bad. You're not going to get like a home run deal from the MLS, but it's a good start.
Yeah.
But then as you continue on your real estate investing journey, then you probably want to connect with some wholesalers.
Yeah.
Or if you want to do it yourself, you can start sending out your own direct mail letters. What I do is I have a virtual assistant over in the Philippines who is calling from a list that I've given her. So you get a list and you skip trace the phone numbers, you give it to her, and then she makes those calls for you.
Wow.
Of course, you can do it yourself, but I personally am not really a big fan of cold calling people.
Yeah. Yeah. Okay. So deal flow is critical. I agree with that. Okay. What would you say would be next after that?
Well, obviously you need to have your fundamentals right. So, listening to your show or my show, you can learn how to evaluate deals better. You get to see, and if you're a wholesaler, right, it's one thing to get the deal, but it's another thing to know how to disposition a deal, know how to sell it, and know what your end buyer will buy it for. So there's no point in tying up a property under contract if you can't even sell the property to begin with.
Okay. Now, are you doing more flips or more long-term holding?
So for me, my investment strategy, most of it is from my long-term holding, but then we do dabble in the wholesale and flipping side as well.
Okay. So like on a long-term hold, let's say that, are you looking for more value add type properties that are kind of distressed assets that you can purchase on the cheap?
Yeah, that's the ideal strategy. So you buy something for really, really cheap. The rehab costs are, not that much, and then you can get decent rents on them. Personally, I prefer to buy a property that is distressed. You rehab it a little bit, you put a renter in there versus buying from a turnkey property. Because when you buy from like a turnkey property, like, yeah, you don't have to deal with the hassle yourself, but then there's like no equity in there and you're not really getting the returns that you could have gotten if you just did it yourself.
Okay. So, let's say that you find a property, for example, Jacksonville, Florida, it's $100,000. What is the estimated ARV of that property?
So I honestly haven't bought a house for 100,000. The houses I got are for a little bit less than that.
Okay, well, let's just say 50,000.
Yeah, so it'll be like 50,000. You put 20,000 into it, and then it should be worth around 90. And then it rents for 850 to 900 per month.
Okay, and then the loan that you're taking out, it's a hard money loan for the acquisition and the rehab.
So luckily for me, I actually had enough money to just buy it with cash. But if you needed to, then yes, you could use hard money to acquire the property.
Okay, and that's one thing that, just so you're aware, one of the things that we offer to our clients is we have an investor line of credit. And on that line of credit, investors can get up to $100 million line for buying fix and flip or ground up construction. They can also do long-term rentals, or Airbnb. We have a line of credit that we give out to our clients. And the benefit of that is you don't have to do hard money and pay double-digit interest and a bunch of points. We give our clients low interest rates with less fees. It may even help you. But just so the audience knows, because we're big in that too, so we give our investors these lines of credit up, like I said, up to $100 million.
That's crazy. Do you want to talk about that program while we're on the topic?
Yeah, sure. I have a bunch of videos on it, but basically we go up to 90% leverage. And so, this example, let's say that it was 50,000 acquisition, 20,000 rehab, then that's 70,000. You put 10% down. And the interest rate, depending on your credit and your financials, could start at 6.9% interest only. And basically, you can do that. You could do ground up construction. You could build a house. You could do multifamily. You can do mixed use. And so it's based off of your experience and your net worth to determine the size of your credit line. The minimum credit line that we give is $500,000. You have to have at least a 620 credit score or higher to be eligible, and at least a $50,000 liquidity to qualify. It's really strong for people that have experience. You could be one thing that's cool, you could be a new entity, a brand new investor, and you could be eligible for that credit line too. But the maximum that you'll get is $500,000 on your line of credit if you're brand new, and then we can scale that credit line and grow it as your business grows. So
that's cool. Do you charge fees when you guys draw on it, or is it just the straight 6.99%?
It's only when you draw. Yeah, you don't pay the interest until you draw on the loan. So actually when you do the closing, so you won't start paying any fees or interest until you actually close on the deal, right? And they're 1-year loans. So it's a 1-year interest only loan. It has semi-annual extensions. If you're not able to sell the property, it's not for. So this is only used for short-term funding. We can roll it over to a long-term loan afterwards. But in the beginning, it's a short-term loan. So, but it's really powerful, because I think, and I'm probably one of your top fundamentals is going to be, you have to have, when in your first point, your funding has to be in line. You can't just, because a lot of people don't have a bunch of cash laying around. Some people do, but a lot of people don't. So getting in bed with the banks and having a good relationship with your lender is also very, very important.
Do you guys use seconds on that one, or is it only for the first?
A second mortgage?
Like, let's imagine someone has financing for 50% of the deal and they need another like 30% to cover.
Well, I guess, tell me, why do you think someone would need a second mortgage? I mean, I'm just trying to understand.
Let's imagine it's a giant commercial deal. Their first bank is
Oh,
going to give them 50%.
Yeah. We do. Yeah. So that's it. Not on this program, but yes, on other programs, we will allow seller seconds up to 100% CLTV. So let's say, give you an example. Just a typical example. We did a restaurant for $3 million. We did a first for 1.5, and then we did a second for 1.5. And so the person purchasing the restaurant was able to buy the restaurant with 100% financing because we did a first from us and then a second from the seller. So, but that's a different program. That's not on the line of credit. So, but it can be done. So, yes, we do allow seller seconds. And that's also a really powerful thing. You just have to make sure that the seller's on board. He's going to carry the second mortgage. So that's and that's just the biggest thing on that. But okay. So what else? What else would you say, Sean, is important for real estate investors? I mean,
well, let's say if you're going to do like the out-of-state rental strategy, and the number one fear that people have is that they don't know, like it seems very risky because you're maybe living on one coast and then you're investing in the other coast. So what I would say is the number one important thing is make sure you have a good team where you're going to invest in. So that goes back to networking, but a little bit differently because you're not going to be able to go to a meetup. Like I'm not going to fly to Jacksonville just to go to a meetup and meet some people there.
Yeah.
So what you can do is leverage all these online platforms. Obviously there's people like you or I who already have referrals, and we have people that we can send, people to. Mm-hmm. And if they want to find their own team, I would say that using online forums like biggerpockets.com mm-hmm. is probably a really good strategy. You just go on the forum, you decide what city you want to invest in. And of course, before you even have a team, you decide what city you invest in. So again, either look at those top 10 lists, or, if you're from somewhere, you live somewhere else now, you know this place, you have friends and family over there, you can invest there as well. Check for the same things: population growth, job growth. You want to make sure that rents have been going up, occupancy is good, all those general statistics. But then, when you go to look for a team, you can go on Bigger Pockets and you just ask a general question. You can ask them, hey, what are some good places to invest in XYZ city? Uh-huh. And then people who live in that city will get tagged on Bigger Pockets and they'll reply to your forum post. And when they reply to your forum post, you're going to see a whole list of different agents or wholesalers or people who want to work with you to help you out. Right. And then from those lists, you can actually call those individuals because you know that these guys are on Bigger Pockets. They're like investor friendly. They know what to look for. Right. Take them to be on your team. These people live in that area. They also have their own referral network. They can refer you to the next, like if you have a good agent, they can refer you to a good property manager. Good property manager can refer you to a good contractor, et cetera, et cetera.
Yeah, gotcha. And then let me ask you this, what's your, as far as the contractors and do you have any special criteria? Because I've seen a lot of investors, they've gotten burned with contractors. So do you have any due diligence or any type of criteria for evaluating contractors?
So when it's for my out-of-state rental properties, I actually do trust my property manager to handle most of that. They have a standard of just getting 3 bids no matter what, and then just choosing kind of like the best person that they've worked with in the past. Even though they may not be the cheapest, you still just get the bid. Gotcha. For my own projects here in the Bay Area, I've had success with contractors. I also had some issues with some contractors. Mostly those just have to do with you keeping track of your contractors. So if it's out of state thing, just rely on your property management team to keep track of them. Mm-hmm. But then if you're doing them locally and you don't have like a foreman or something, then you kind of need to be there every day making sure that things are progressing as planned.
Okay. Now on your property management, do you use a national property management, or who do you recommend on that?
No, they're not nationally managed. There's like a local group.
Local, national. Okay. Local property manager that obviously has good reviews or something that has integrity or credible.
Exactly. Yeah. I mean, same thing. Similar to getting contractor bids, you do want to contact as many property management companies as you can, and then just talk to them, see what they're like. You can kind of tell who personalities are like over the phone. You can see what they're interested in. I would say if you're a smaller investor, don't go for a property management company that has like 1,000 units under management, because then your property is just going to be a small blip on their radar, and like they won't really care about you. So you can get a small property manager. And likewise, like if you have 2 property management companies that you absolutely love and you can't choose between the 2, you could choose both. You can have one property management company service one house, and then another property management company service another property. Like that's totally okay.
Now that sounds good. Okay. I like that. These are some very good, for everyone watching this, there's some very good tenets here to follow to make sure that you're doing these things that Sean's recommending, because it makes all the difference. When I first started in the business, I got ripped off really bad by contractors. And I didn't know. I was just trusting people. Because that's just my nature, is to be trusting and more optimistic. And I had to learn that you have to be really, really careful when you're dealing with people. So is there anything else, Sean, that you'd want to tell the viewers, or any other special nuggets or tidbits on how to be successful?
I would say leverage is a really crucial part of the real estate investing business. You do need to use leverage because it helps you grow faster. But as we've seen with this whole COVID-19 situation right now, people who are overly leveraged are getting hurt really badly. So I would say you need to be aggressive, but you also need to be conservative.
Yeah.
So, how you're saying there's like 90% loans out there, right? I work for a hard money lending company, and we used to do 90% loans all day, every day, and it was totally fine. But I think the problem really comes when you have multiple properties all at 90% leverage. Like if the market's good, then you make a lot of money. But if the market contracts and you have all these loans out there and they're all at 90% leverage, it's very hard to service that debt.
Yeah.
So that's why I'm kind of wary for people who are trying to get 100% financing on their real estate deals. Like some of my properties in Jacksonville, Florida, I bought with cash, and I had the opportunity to refinance and get my cash back. But the thing is, like, I didn't need the cash, and I'm glad I didn't take the money out, because now those properties are cash flowing like crazy, and they're able to just provide stable income for me right now, even though we're having this crazy economic meltdown.
Right. And then, I think that's a huge thing that you mentioned. And you mentioned that like people can follow you, they can go to your show and learn more. How can they follow you or learn more about you? Where do they go?
Yeah, sure. You can check out my website, everythingrei.com. I'm also on YouTube with Real Estate Investing with Sean. And if you want to listen to my podcast, I release episodes twice a week. I mostly interview real estate investors and professionals to teach you guys more about the business and to help you guys become real estate investing bosses. And that can be found on Apple iTunes or Spotify. And it's called the Everything Real Estate Investing Show with Seanpan.
Cool. Well, Sean, I really appreciate you coming on the show today. So you guys, please check him out and learn out more. This was a great informational podcast for you guys out there that are trying to learn more how to become a successful real estate investor, the things to learn, the things to avoid to make sure that you can actually make money. Because for our company, we talk to thousands of investors every single year that get burned, they lose money, they buy at the wrong location, they pay too much, they use the wrong contractor, they do the wrong loan, and everything has to be right in order to make money. Like he just said, the location, the management company, the type of loan that you're getting, the right leverage, right? Did you do your due diligence on the contractor? All these things have to match up if you're going to make money and be successful, whether it's, trading in with stocks or options or real estate investing. You really have to become a master at it and have a mentor, like he said in the beginning, someone that will guide you and show you the way. That's why we built Real Estate University. That's why Sean has his courses to teach you guys out there. It's not about us trying to make money off you. You have to invest in the money, just like when you go to a university. You have to spend the money to learn, right? So check out his course. Check out my course, you guys. Thank you so much for subscribing. Sean, thank you. I know you're really busy. I'm going to let you go. Really, really good to meet you and learn more about you. And we'll put all your information on the YouTube channel so everyone can go check you out.
Angelo, thank you so much for having me on your show.
Yeah,
it was a pleasure.
Absolutely, man. Thank you. Take care. Peace out, Sean.
You too. Take care.
Thank you. Bye-bye.